The morning sunlight streamed through the blinds as Zara Johnson stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Today was her first day at Westlake High School, and her stomach was tied in knots. She ran her fingers through her beautiful box braids, which had taken her aunt nearly 6 hours to complete last weekend. The braids reached halfway down her back, and Zara loved them not just for how they looked, but for what they meant, a connection to her roots and a reminder of the afternoons spent in her aunt's living room, listening to stories about her family's history. "Zara, the bus will be here in 10 minutes. Her mother called from downstairs. "Coming, Mom," she replied, taking one last deep breath before grabbing her backpack. In the kitchen, her mother was packing Zara's lunch, moving with the hurried precision of someone who had already been up for hours. Since the promotion that brought them to this side of town, her mom worked longer hours but came home with a bigger smile. "Remember, baby, new school means new beginnings," her mother said, handing Zara her lunch bag. "You get to decide who you want to be here." Zara nodded, though they both knew who she was hadn't changed. After her father passed away 3 years ago, Zara had thrown herself into mixed martial arts training. Her coach said she had natural talent, but what really made Zara stand out was her focus. While other kids came and went, Zara showed up every day, rain or shine, transforming her grief into discipline. The bus ride to Westlake High was quiet. Zara put in her earbuds and watched the neighborhoods change from old apartment buildings to big houses with wide lawns. She felt the stares of the other students but kept her eyes on the window, mentally repeating the breathing exercises her coach had taught her. Westlake High School was nothing like her old school. The building was newer, with a big sign out front announcing upcoming football games and congratulating the debate team on their recent victory. Inside, the hallways were wide and clean, lined with lockers that weren't dented or covered in graffiti. The main office smelled like coffee and cleaning supplies. A gray-haired woman with kind eyes looked up as Zara entered. "You must be Zara Johnson," she said with a smile. "I'm Mrs. Rivera. Welcome to Westlake." After getting her schedule and a map of the school, Zara headed to her first class. The hallways were packed with students who seemed to move in tight groups, laughing and talking over each other. No one bumped into Zara, but no one noticed her either, exactly what she had hoped for. Her first class was English, and the teacher, Mr. Patel, didn't make her introduce herself to everyone, which Zara appreciated. She took a seat at the back of the class and started taking notes. The girl next to her, with curly hair and glasses, smiled quickly before turning back to her notebook. By lunchtime, Zara had successfully blended into the background of every class. In the cafeteria, she found an empty table near the window and unpacked her lunch. She was halfway through her sandwich when she noticed a group of students at a nearby table staring in her direction and whispering. A tall boy with a basketball jersey kept glancing her way. "Is this seat taken?" a voice asked, interrupting her thoughts. Zara looked up to see a boy with paint stains on his hands standing next to the table. "No, go ahead," she replied, moving her bag. "I'm Dion," he said, sitting down. "Art club president and designated welcomer of new students who look like they'd rather be anywhere else." Zara couldn't help but smile. "That obvious, huh?" "Just a bit," Dion laughed. "So, where'd you transfer from?" "East Side High," Zara said, waiting for the usual reaction. The raised eyebrows, the slight step back that people from this side of town often took when they heard where she was from. But Dion just nodded. "My cousin went there. Said they had the best basketball team in the district." As they talked, Zara felt herself relax a little. Maybe this new beginning wouldn't be so bad after all. What she didn't notice was the girl at the center table watching her with narrow eyes, especially when the tall boy in the basketball jersey kept looking in Zara's direction instead of paying attention to the conversation at his own table. What nobody at Westlake knew was that beneath Zara's quiet exterior was a girl who had fought in junior MMA competitions across the state. A girl who had learned to control her emotions in the face of pressure. A girl who never started fights, but always finished them. By the end of her first week at Westlake High, Zara had learned the unwritten rules of the school. She knew which hallways to avoid between classes, which teachers allowed phones, and most importantly, she had learned about Madison Reed. Madison walked through the school like she owned it. She was tall and confident, with perfect nails that matched her outfits and hair that looked like it came straight from a magazine cover. But what really set Madison apart wasn't her looks, it was the way other students moved out of her path in the hallways, how teachers smiled a little too brightly when she raised her hand, and how her Instagram posts always hit at least 500 likes within an hour. "That's her throne," Dion whispered to Zara during lunch on Friday, nodding toward a table in the center of the cafeteria where Madison sat surrounded by her friends. "And that's her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Tyler." Tyler was the boy in the basketball jersey who had been looking at Zara that first day. Up close, Zara could see why he was popular, tall with bright eyes and an easy smile that probably got him out of trouble more often than not. "They've been together since freshman year," Dion continued, "except when Madison decides they're not, which happens about once a month." Zara shrugged. "Not my business." But later that afternoon, as Zara was putting her books away at her locker, she became Madison's business. Tyler stopped to help Zara pick up a notebook she'd dropped, and that simple act of kindness didn't go unnoticed. "You must be the new girl," came a voice smooth as honey but cold as ice. Madison stood there, her arms crossed, looking Zara up and down like she was checking out something in a store and finding it not worth the price tag. "I'm Zara," she replied simply, closing her locker. "Cute braids. Did you do them yourself?" Madison asked, her tone making it clear that cute wasn't exactly what she meant. "My aunt did them." Madison said, twirling her own straight hair around one finger. "Well, welcome to Westlake, if you need anything." She let the sentence hang unfinished, her smile not reaching her eyes. As Madison walked away, Dean appeared at Zara's side. "Congratulations, you've been noticed." "Is that bad?" "Depends. Did you like flying under the radar?" The answer was yes, but Zara knew that option was probably gone now. Something about the way Madison had looked at her told Zara that she'd somehow already crossed a line she didn't even know existed. That line became clearer the next Monday when Zara opened her locker to find her gym clothes soaked with water. On Tuesday, she discovered her name had mysteriously been added to a volunteer list for cleaning up after the pep rally. By Wednesday, whispers followed her down the hallway, something about her family, her old neighborhood, and how she supposedly couldn't afford her clothes. "Don't let it get to you," advised Layla, a quiet girl from Zara's math class who had started joining her and Dion at lunch. "Madison does this to everyone she sees as a threat." "A threat to what?" Zara asked, genuinely confused. "I don't even talk to her." "Yeah, but Tyler talks about you," Layla said. "He asked about you in chemistry yesterday." Zara sighed. She didn't want this kind of drama. At her old school, she'd kept to herself, focused on her grades and her training. After her dad died, she'd promised her mom she would stay out of trouble, and that meant avoiding exactly these kinds of situations. On Thursday morning, Zara found Madison and her friends blocking her locker. They were laughing about something on Madison's phone, but went quiet when they saw Zara approach. "There she is," Madison said with a smile that reminded Zara of a cat watching a mouse. "We were just talking about you." She held up her phone, showing a social media post with a photo of Zara's old neighborhood. The caption read, "Wondering how the ghetto girl affords those designer sneakers? Ask her mom about her promotion." Zara felt heat rise in her chest. She could handle comments about herself, but bringing her mother into it crossed a line. For a moment, she felt the familiar tightening in her fists, the sudden awareness of her body's position that came before a fight. But then she remembered her coach's words. "True power isn't about fighting when you're angry. It's about choosing not to fight when you have every reason to." Zara took a slow breath. "Excuse me," she said calmly. "I need to get to my locker." Madison's smile faltered just a bit, clearly disappointed by the lack of reaction. As Zara turned the combination on her lock, she could feel Madison's eyes boring into her back. What Madison didn't know was that Zara's calm wasn't weakness. It was the kind of strength that came from years of discipline. The kind of strength that knew the difference between a battle and a war. 2 weeks into the school year, Zara had settled into a routine. She woke up early to practice her kickboxing forms before school, ate breakfast with her mom when their schedules lined up, and then caught the bus to Westlake. She kept her head down in classes, ate lunch with Dian and Layla, and went straight to the community gym after school. There, the familiar smell of sweat and disinfectant felt like home, and the rhythmic sound of fists hitting punching bags drowned out the whispers that followed her through the halls at school. "Your footwork is getting sloppy," her coach, Mr. Torres, said as Zara practiced her moves on the heavy bag. "You're thinking about something else." "Sorry," Zara said, wiping sweat from her forehead. "Just some stuff at school." Mr. Torres raised an eyebrow but didn't push. He'd been training Zara since she was 12, when her father first brought her to the gym. He knew her well enough to know when to talk and when to let her work things out through training. Again, he said simply, "Focus on your breathing." And she did. For 2 hours, Zara forgot about Madison Reed and her cruel words. She forgot about the way Tyler kept trying to talk to her despite her clear lack of interest. She forgot about everything except the movement of her body, the control of her breath, and the discipline that had carried her through the darkest days after her father's death. But reality waited for her the next morning at school. "Henny East Side," Madison called out as Zara walked to her first class. The nickname had caught on, and now several students used it instead of her real name. "I heard something interesting about you." Zara kept walking, but Madison stepped directly into her path. "My cousin goes to your old school," Madison continued, her voice loud enough for everyone in the hallway to hear. "He says you used to get into fights all the time. Says you beat up some girl so bad her parents pulled her out of school." The hallway went quiet. Students turned to stare, some with new interest, others with growing concern. "That's not what happened," Zara said quietly. "Oh, so something did happen?" Madison's eyes lit up, sensing a crack in Zara's calm exterior. "Tell us, East Side. What exactly did you do that was so bad you had to transfer schools?" The truth was complex. Yes, there had been an incident at her old school, but not the way Madison was framing it. Zara had stopped a much bigger girl from beating up a 7th grader. She hadn't started anything. She'd just ended it, using only as much force as necessary. The school had understood that, which was why she hadn't been suspended. Her transfer to Westlake had nothing to do with the incident. It was simply because they'd moved after her mom's promotion. But explaining all that to Madison, who was clearly looking for ammunition, seemed pointless. "I didn't have to transfer. We moved because my mom got a better job," Zara said, trying to step around Madison. "Right, the promotion," Madison made air quotes with her fingers. "Is that what they call it when?" "Back off," came a voice from behind Zara. It was Layla, usually so quiet and reserved, now standing with her shoulders squared. "Just because your life is so boring you have to mess with other people doesn't mean we all have to listen to it." Madison's face flushed red. "Excuse me." "You heard me," Layla said, though her voice shook slightly. "Come on, Zara, we'll be late for class." As they walked away, Zara whispered, "Thanks for that." "Don't thank me yet," Layla said. "She's going to make both our lives miserable now." Layla wasn't wrong. By lunchtime, rumors were flying that Zara had been expelled from her previous school for fighting, that she'd broken someone's arm, that she was on probation. Madison had taken the tiny grain of truth and grown it into a forest of lies. "This is getting out of hand," Dian said as they sat at their usual lunch table. "Why don't you just tell people what really happened?" "It wouldn't matter," Zara said, pushing her food around her plate. "People believe what they want to believe." After school, instead of heading straight to the gym, Zara went to the park near her apartment. She sat on a bench, watching younger kids play basketball on the court where her dad had taught her to dribble when she was little. She missed him so much in moments like this. He would have known exactly what to say, how to handle a bully like Madison without losing his cool. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mom. "Working late tonight. There's leftover chicken in the fridge. Love you." Zara sent back a heart emoji, then noticed she had 3 new follow requests on Instagram, all from Westlake students she didn't know. Curious, she opened the app to find her notifications flooded with tags to Madison's latest post, a crudely edited photo that made it look like Zara was in a street fight, with the caption, "East Side's real life before she pretended to be one of us." The photo had over 100 likes already. Below it, Madison had added, "Watch out for those braids, she might strangle you with them." Zara's hand tightened around her phone. This was no longer just annoying, It was becoming dangerous. If these rumors continued to spread, they could affect her school record, maybe even her future college applications. And dragging her hair into it felt personal in a way that crossed yet another line. What Madison didn't realize was that with each new line she crossed, she was getting closer to discovering exactly who Zara really was. And while Zara had promised her mom and herself that she would stay out of trouble, she was beginning to think that sometimes trouble found you no matter how hard you tried to avoid it. The chemistry lab smelled of cleaning supplies and heated metal. Zara tied her long braids back into a ponytail and slipped on her safety goggles, careful to adjust the strap so it wouldn't pull her hair. She had been dreading this class all day, not because of the subject, which she actually enjoyed, but because Madison and two of her friends were assigned to the lab table directly behind hers. "Today we'll be observing chemical reactions," Mr. Chen announced, writing the instructions on the whiteboard. "Please work with your assigned partners and remember all safety protocols." Zara's partner was a boy named Raj, who was too shy to speak above a whisper, but knew his chemistry better than anyone else in class. They worked well together, with Raj explaining the concepts and Zara handling the practical parts of the experiments. "Can you pass the beaker?" Zara asked as they set up their workstation. From behind her, she heard Madison's exaggerated whisper, "Oh my God, did you see the post about East Side? Tyler totally liked the comment I made about her hair." Zara took a deep breath and focused on measuring the correct amount of solution for their experiment. The social media harassment had gotten worse over the weekend, with Madison posting more fake stories about Zara's past. Zara had blocked Madison, but screenshots kept finding their way to her through messages from concerned classmates. "Don't listen to them," Raj whispered as he handed her the beaker. "They're just jealous because you got a better grade on the last test." Zara smiled at him gratefully. That was the thing about bullies like Madison. They created a lot of noise, but they also showed you who your real friends were. As they worked through the experiment, recording observations in their lab notebooks, Zara felt something brush against her back. She turned slightly but saw nothing unusual. Madison and her friends were huddled over their own experiment, though they seemed more interested in their phones than the chemistry. "Now add 3 drops of the indicator solution," Raj instructed, pointing to a small bottle. Zara reached for it, concentrating on keeping her hands steady. The experiment required precision, and she was determined not to let Madison's presence distract her. Behind her, Madison whispered to her friends, "Watch this." The classroom was filled with the usual sounds of a lab in progress: the clink of glass beakers, the scratch of pencils on paper, Mr. Chen's footsteps as he moved between tables checking progress. No one noticed Madison slowly move from her station, scissors from the supply drawer hidden in her palm. No one except Tyler, who had been watching from across the room. His eyes widened as he realized what was about to happen, but before he could call out a warning, it was too late. With a quick, practiced movement, the kind that comes from years of cutting paper dolls and prom decorations, Madison grabbed a section of Zara's braids and sliced through them with the scissors. The sound was barely audible, but to Zara, it might as well have been a gunshot. She felt the sudden lightness on the right side of her head even before she heard Madison's triumphant laugh. For a moment, everything seemed to move in slow motion. Zara turned to see Madison holding up several inches of her braids like a trophy, a phone already out to capture Zara's reaction. "Oops," Madison said with fake innocence. "It was just so tempting hanging there like that. Maybe you should have been more careful with those dangerous braids." The classroom fell silent. Even Mr. Chen, who had been helping students at the front of the room, froze mid-sentence as he processed what had happened. Zara looked down at the floor where more of her braids had fallen. These weren't just hair to her. Each braid represented hours spent with her aunt, listening to family stories, learning about her heritage. They were one of the few things that made her feel connected to her community after moving to this new neighborhood. And Madison had cut them off for likes on social media. Something shifted inside Zara in that moment. The careful control she had maintained since arriving at Westlake, the promises to herself to stay out of trouble, to not let the bullies get to her, suddenly seemed far away. In their place was a cold, clear fury that she hadn't felt since the day she found out her father was gone. "Madison Reed." Mr. Chen's voice cut through the silence. "Principal's office. Now." Madison rolled her eyes, still clutching her phone and the stolen braids. It was just a joke. She can get more. But as Zara slowly turned to face her, Madison's smug smile faltered. There was something in Zara's eyes that Madison had never seen before, something that made her take an instinctive step back. "You shouldn't have done that," Zara said quietly, her voice steady despite the anger coursing through her veins. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Zara sat silently in the principal's office as Mr. Chen explained what had happened. Principal Wang, a short woman with kind eyes but a no-nonsense attitude, listened carefully before asking Madison to tell her side of the story. It was just a joke, Madison insisted, though her voice lacked its usual confidence. Something about the quiet way Zara was looking at her made her uneasy. Everyone was laughing. No one was laughing, Raj said from his seat beside Zara. He rarely spoke up in class, but he had insisted on coming to the office as a witness. She did it to be cruel. Principal Wong looked at the braids still clutched in Madison's hand, then at the uneven spot on the right side of Zara's head, where several inches were now missing. "Ms. Reed, you're aware that cutting someone's hair without their permission is assault," Principal Wong said, her voice stern. "This isn't a joke by any definition." Madison's eyes widened. "Assault? Come on, it's just hair." "It's not just hair," Zara said, finally breaking her silence. Her voice was steady, controlled, but everyone in the room could feel the emotion behind her words. "These braids took my aunt 6 hours to do. They're part of my culture, part of who I am." Principal Wong nodded. "Ms. Reed, I'm calling your parents. You're suspended for 3 days, and there will be further discussion about this incident with the school board. We have a zero-tolerance policy for this kind of behavior." Madison's face flushed red. 3 days? But the homecoming dance is this weekend. You can't." "I can and I am." Principal Wong cut her off. "Ms. Johnson, I'll be calling your mother as well. I'm very sorry this happened." After giving their statements, Zara and Raj were sent back to class. Word had already spread throughout the school, and students stared as Zara walked down the hallway, her hand occasionally reaching up to touch the place where her braids had been cut. "You okay?" Raj asked quietly. "I will be," Zara replied. By the end of the day, Zara just wanted to go home, but her mum was in an important meeting and couldn't pick her up early. As she headed toward the bus stop, she heard someone calling her name. It was Dian and Layla, running to catch up with her. "We heard what happened," Layla said, her face filled with anger. "That girl is pure evil." "My sister can fix your braids," Dian offered. "She's really good with hair." Zara appreciated their support, but right now she just needed space to process everything. "Thanks, guys. I think I just want to go home." As they reached the parking lot, Zara spotted Madison and her friends huddled near a silver car. Madison was crying dramatically while her friends patted her shoulder and glared in Zara's direction. When Madison saw Zara, she whispered something to the others. "Let's go another way," Dian suggested, sensing trouble. But it was too late. Madison's friends were already approaching, forming a half-circle that blocked Zara's path to the bus stop. "Happy now?" One of them called out. "Madison's been suspended, and it's all your fault." "My fault?" Zara couldn't believe what she was hearing. "She cut my hair." "You've been asking for it since day one," another girl said. "Coming here like you owned the place, trying to steal Tyler's attention." Zara took a deep breath. "Move out of my way. I'm going home." "Or what?" Madison stepped forward, her earlier tears replaced by cold anger. "You'll beat me up like you did at your old school? Go ahead. That'll just prove everything I've been saying about you." Zara realized that's exactly what Madison wanted, for her to lose control, to confirm the rumors that she was violent and dangerous. It would turn the story from Madison assaulted Zara to they got into a fight. "I don't want to fight you," Zara said calmly, setting her backpack on the ground. "I never did." "Too bad," Madison replied, stepping closer, "because I want to fight you." Before anyone could react, Madison pushed Zara hard, sending her stumbling backward. The small crowd that had gathered around them gasped. Zara regained her balance easily. Years of training had given her a low center of gravity and quick reflexes. She straightened up, brushed off her shoulder, and looked Madison directly in the eyes. "That was your one free shot," Zara said quietly. "You really don't want to try for a second?" Something in her tone made Madison hesitate, but she was too far committed now. with too many eyes watching. She lunged forward again, this time swinging her arm in a wild attempt at a slap. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion to everyone watching. Zara moved with a fluid grace that seemed impossible for someone who had been standing still just a moment before. She sidestepped Madison's attack, caught her wrist mid-swing, and used Madison's own momentum to guide her smoothly to the ground. In seconds, Madison found herself sitting on the asphalt, uninjured but completely stunned, with Zara standing calmly above her. Like I said, Zara repeated, "You shouldn't have done that." The silence in the parking lot was thick enough to touch. Madison remained seated on the asphalt, her face cycling through expressions of shock, embarrassment, and anger. Her friends stood frozen, their mouths hanging open. No one had expected Zara to move that fast or with such precision. "Did you see that?" someone whispered from the growing crowd of students. Before anyone could make another move, the assistant principal, Mr. Rivera, came running from the building. "What's going on here?" he demanded, looking between Zara standing calmly and Madison sitting on the ground. "She attacked me." Madison pointed at Zara, tears already forming in her eyes. Everyone saw it. Multiple voices rose at once. "That's not what happened." Madison pushed her first. Zara was just defending herself. Mr. Rivera raised his hands for quiet. "Both of you, back to the principal's office. Now, the rest of you, go home." As they walked back toward the school building, Zara could feel everyone's eyes on her. Part of her regretted reacting at all. She had managed to keep her promise about staying out of trouble for so long. But another part of her knew that sometimes you had to stand your ground. In the principal's office, security footage from the parking lot was already playing on the computer screen. Principal Wong watched with a grim expression as the video clearly showed Madison initiating the confrontation and pushing Zara first. "Ms. Reed, this is extremely disappointing," Principal Wong said. "Not only did you commit assault in the classroom today, but you've now escalated the situation further despite already facing suspension." Madison's parents arrived shortly after, their faces tight with anger. But as they watched the security footage, their expressions changed from defensive to embarrassed. "I'm very sorry," Madison's mother said to Zara. "This is not how we raised our daughter to behave." Madison stared at the floor, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. Given the circumstances, Principal Wong continued, "Madison's suspension will be extended to 2 weeks, and she will be required to complete community service and attend counseling before returning to school." "What about her?" Madison's father asked, pointing to Zara. "She put hands on my daughter." The footage clearly shows that Ms. Johnson used minimal force to defend herself after being physically attacked. Principal Wong replied firmly, "She will not be punished for that." Zara's mother arrived then, rushing into the office still wearing her work clothes. Her eyes immediately went to Zara's hair, and she gasped softly at the sight of the unevenly cut braids. "Baby, are you okay?" she asked, pulling Zara into a hug. "I'm fine, Mom," Zara whispered back. "Really?" As they left the principal's office, Madison's parents insisted on speaking with them. "We want to make this right," Madison's father said. "We'll pay for your daughter's hair to be fixed professionally." Zara's mother nodded stiffly. "Thank you. But I think what your daughter needs to understand is that this isn't just about money. Those braids represented something important to Zara. They took hours to create and were part of her cultural identity." "We understand," Madison's mother said, looking genuinely remorseful. "Madison will learn from this, I promise you." On the drive home, Zara was quieter than usual. Her mother glanced at her with concern. "You want to talk about what happened in that parking lot?" Zara sighed. "I tried so hard to keep my promise, Mom, to stay out of trouble. From what I saw, you didn't start any trouble. You just didn't let yourself be a victim," her mother replied. "There's a difference between looking for fights and standing up for yourself. Mr. Torres always says that the best fighters know when not to fight," Zara said, looking out the window at the passing houses. "Smart man," her mother nodded. "But he also taught you how to protect yourself when you need to. I'm proud of you for showing restraint." That night, Zara's phone buzzed nonstop with messages and social media notifications. Videos of the parking lot confrontation had spread throughout the school, completely changing the narrative about her. Instead of East Side troublemaker, she was now being called Ninja Girl and the Calm Fighter. Several people had shared old photos of her from martial arts competitions they'd found online, connecting the dots about her background. Dion texted, "You're famous now. Everyone's talking about how amazing you were." Layla sent, "Madison's friends are actually apologizing to people for believing her lies about you." Even Rage, who rarely texted anyone, sent a short message, "You were right to stand up to her. Bullies only stop when someone stands up to them." As Zara got ready for bed, she caught her reflection in the mirror. The right side of her head still looked uneven where Madison had cut her braids. It would take time to fix properly. But somehow, looking at herself now, Zara felt stronger than she had in weeks. Not because she had taken Madison down in the parking lot, but because she had done it with control, with discipline, and only after exhausting every other option. She had defended herself without becoming the person Madison had tried to paint her as. And there was power in that. The following week at Westlake High felt different. Zara walked through the hallways and noticed how people looked at her now, not with suspicion or judgment, but with a kind of respect. Some even nodded or smiled as she passed by. The whispers had changed from cruel rumors to impressed comments about how she had handled herself. On Tuesday morning, Principal Wong called Zara into her office. Zara was surprised to find not just the principal waiting for her, but also Coach Wilson, who ran the school's athletics program. "Zara, I've been watching that video from the parking lot," Coach Wilson said, getting straight to the point. "That wasn't just luck or instinct. You've had training." Zara nodded cautiously. "Yes, ma'am. I've been practicing mixed martial arts since I was 12. 6 years of discipline," Coach Wilson said with an appreciative whistle. "That explains a lot. Listen, I have a proposal for you." Principal Wong leaned forward. "We've been discussing ways to address the bullying issues at Westlake more effectively. What happened between you and Madison isn't an isolated incident. We want to start an after-school self-defense program," Coach Wilson explained. "Not to teach fighting, but to help students feel more confident and safe. Would you be interested in helping me run it?" Zara was stunned. "Me? But I got into a fight on school grounds." "You defended yourself with remarkable restraint," Principal Wong corrected her. "That's exactly the kind of example we want to set. Standing up for yourself doesn't mean hurting others." The program started small, just 6 students the first week. But by the third week, nearly 20 students showed up, including Layla and, surprisingly, 2 girls who had once been part of Madison's group. "Remember, the goal isn't to hurt anyone," Zara explained as she demonstrated a simple blocking technique. "The goal is to protect yourself and create distance so you can get help." Coach Wilson watched from the side, stepping in occasionally to help students with their form, but mostly letting Zara lead. After years of training, teaching came naturally to her. She found herself enjoying the chance to share what she had learned, not just the physical techniques, but the mental discipline that came with them. "My coach always says that true strength isn't about fighting when you're angry," Zara told the group. "It's about choosing not to fight when you have every reason to." One afternoon, as the class was ending, Zara looked up to see her Aunt Tanya standing in the doorway, smiling proudly. Her aunt had driven across town to fix Zara's braids the weekend after the incident, working for hours to blend the shorter sections with the rest. "Look at you," Tanya said, giving her niece a hug after the other students left. "Teaching instead of fighting. Your dad would be so proud." "I think he would," Zara agreed, feeling a warmth in her chest at the thought. 2 weeks before Madison's suspension was due to end, Zara was surprised to receive an email from her. She almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity got the better of her. "I've been in counseling," Madison had written. "The therapist asked me to think about why I treated you the way I did. The truth is, I was jealous. You came to Westlake and didn't seem to care what anyone thought of you. You didn't try to fit in or impress people like I've spent my whole life doing. And when Tyler noticed you, it scared me because I realized how fragile my whole social life was. None of that excuses what I did. I'm truly sorry, especially about your hair. I know it meant a lot to you." Zara read the email twice, unsure how to feel. Part of her wanted to dismiss it as just another manipulation, but something about the words felt genuine. She decided not to respond right away. Forgiveness, like respect, had to be earned. When Madison returned to school, she was quieter, less flashy. The first time they passed each other in the hallway, Madison gave a small, uncertain nod, which Zara returned. It wasn't friendship, but it was a start. On the last day before spring break, Zara found Tyler waiting by her locker. They hadn't spoken much since the incident, though he had apologized for not warning her about Madison's plans that day in chemistry. "I heard you're teaching self-defense now," he said. "Sort of," Zara replied, gathering her books. "More like self-confidence." "Do you think? I mean, would it be okay if I joined?" "The class, I mean." Zara looked at him thoughtfully. 6 months ago, Tyler had been just another popular kid who wouldn't have given her a second glance. Now he was asking to learn from her. "Class meets Tuesdays and Thursdays," she said simply. "Don't be late." As she walked away, Zara couldn't help but smile. When she'd first arrived at Westlake, all she had wanted was to blend in, to avoid trouble. Instead, she had found her voice, shared her strength, and created something positive from what could have been just another sad story of high school cruelty. Her braids were growing back, slowly but surely. Just like her sense of belonging in this new place she now called home.